Hello and welcome back to the KCC channel. I'm Rob and I hope you are having a wonderful day today. Today I have 4 stories for you from the Malicious Compliance subreddit. But before we get into that, today is announcement day. I would like to introduce you to my friend Carmen. You know, Carmen Chameleon. Not only is Carmen incredibly cute and 3D printed in my basement, but Carmen comes with cookies. So for all of you who have been asking me in the comments when you're actually going to get your cookies that I've been promising for 4.5 years, here they are. Carmen comes in 2 different colors right now as shown on the screen. We have our RGB Carmen on the right and we have our rainbow Carmen on the left. I will be offering more as time goes on and I'll be sure to let you know here when they're available. Get your Carmen Chameleon with cookie at the link in the description down below. On to today's stories, let's jump right in. This story comes to us from a wise cobbler. Let's save $50 a month on a cell phone bill and risk causing 6 figures in operational damage and damage our reputation with paying customers instead. First, I love working for this company. Honestly, I really do. It's a great company, great culture. This is just simply an example of bean counters looking to save $50 a month, getting things so horribly wrong at times, they cause 6 figures of lost productivity and damage reputation with paying customers. Even after it happens, there is no change in policy. I joined a new company in January of this year before working for them as a consultant. During my onboarding, I had asked the hiring manager if I would be provided with a company cell phone or be able to expense out my monthly cell phone bill. He looked into it and HR told him, this particular position is not eligible for a company cell phone as it does not require after-hour support. This answer actually made sense. I don't need to get involved in day-to-day operation support in my role. They also literally never called me once during my whole tenure as a consultant after hours. So, great. I don't want to work after hours. Up until last week, that policy was upheld, just like it had been during my time as a consultant. There was never a, we were trying to reach you yesterday when I logged in the next day or any emails asking for my help after hours. So, I was loving it. I want to repeat, this is not a dig towards the company. They upheld their end of the bargain this whole time. But here is the malicious compliance part of this story. I have no cell phone number listed in my email signature, nor on my internal company profile, because, hey, I don't have a company cell phone. I have a desk phone, but that's it. I talk with a lot of IT vendors in my role, and I don't need them calling my personal line. I also did not install Outlook on my personal phone or any company apps. So last week, a major update was applied to one of the platforms that fall under my purview. The actual maintenance is performed by an operations manager and their team. Things went smooth in our QA test environment. I signed off, my boss signed off, so everything was ready, set, and go. Major update goes in, someone incorrectly performed a few steps, even though that same person performed them just fine in QA. Things started going wrong. Horribly wrong. I was nowhere to be found. I wasn't responding to emails. I had no phone number listed anywhere. So they did the troubleshoot on their own. In hindsight, the fix was relatively simple, and I definitely would have been able to guide the team. The error wasn't even related to the update. They just went down a completely different path to resolve the issue, thinking the update was the root cause. It would have taken a few hours, but we would have fixed it. But in the moment, as things were going wrong, in panic and trying to recover from the incorrectly performed steps, they somehow wiped the database. Somehow. Please do not ask me how. The backup was corrupted in this process as well, and they couldn't use it to recover. Dear God. They had to go pull tape backups, which is excruciatingly slow to recover from and a week old. Monday morning, I log into my laptop and I notice the holy heck that is going on. Oh crap. Get on a call with the operations manager. Operations manager is level-headed, no blame is thrown. Again, as I said, great company, great culture. Asks what happened to me. I told him I have no company phone. I asked for it and they said no. He just had to shake his head. Organizationally, he and I are at the same level. He just has a reporting structure and I do not. My boss and I got on a call for a debrief and he asked the same question. I gave the same answer, no company phone. He's the one that told me my position was ineligible for a company phone as I was not required for after-hours support. All told, it took the team 5 days to recover everything, rerun all the transactions that were lost from the source systems, another 1.5 days for the business teams to validate all was well and match up the numbers. My boss did ask me if I had a personal cell phone. I tell him no. I do, but it's the principle of the whole thing. As I said, I deal with a lot of external vendors now. I don't need them bothering me on my personal line. During business hours, we communicate over Teams, Zoom, WebEx, and my landline never gets used as I'm barely in the office. He didn't question me further. So all in all, about 7 days of lost system access, productivity, operational reporting, inability to efficiently serve customers, inability to efficiently deploy frontline employees, etc., etc., etc. One of the business directors was still putting together the operational impact, but he figured it was easily 6 figures. All over $50 for a monthly cell phone bill for a bunch of corporate employees who they might need to call once in a blue moon. The funny part is, a majority of IT is eligible for a cell phone because they are required for after-hours support. I estimate maybe 60 of us across all of IT aren't eligible due to our roles. Bean counters, gotta love them. That being said, I did give my personal number to the operations manager for future emergencies. At the end of the day, I don't want my team and friends to needlessly suffer if I can help. Jumping down to the comment section on this one, we have one from a user called Lurking Looney. It says, if there's only one person at your company that could fix the issue without managing to wipe the database, the company has much bigger issues than the lack of a personal phone. Any good IT-based company should never have a single person who is the only one that can fix a system. It will fail again. And perhaps next time, that person will be unreachable for a week or a month, or even no longer works there. Well, I think the company learned their lesson in this case with OP being completely unreachable and all of the losses that they had because of that. I don't fault OP though for not wanting to use their personal phone for things that are work related. If you want to contact me after hours, you will give me a phone and you will pay for it. And I'm not putting any of your apps on my phone either because that's my phone. That's not a work phone. I completely agree with that sentiment. This story comes to us from 1mm Off. Wife complains I don't clean while I cook, so I proceed to sparkle the kitchen instead of making dinner. Been a bit of a reader, thought I'd share something from a few months back. I, 33 male, often do the cooking at home, including the washing up that happens after. My wife, 34 female, does not usually cook. We established that by our second date years ago. I love her to bits, but she is a culinary disaster, and time and sweat has failed to make improvements. It is a lost battle. The sequence of dinner prep usually starts as soon as I finish work. This involves chopping meat and vegetables and rounding up anything that was previously marinated or thawed. This is immediately followed by cooking and then serving to be eaten hot. It seems logical to me that meals should be enjoyed while they are fresh, and cleaning up can wait, especially if the kitchen is not being used by anyone else in the interim. I am also the one who normally does the washing after everyone has eaten, and I wash all the cutlery and cooking prep stuff in the same process. This is done while my wife settles our toddler into bed. I prefer this setup because I can get all the washing done in one go, and everyone can eat their meals at the same time together while it is fresh. I do not like washing the pans, pots, wok after cooking, and before eating. My wife, however, seems to get annoyed at this. Every now and then while I am cooking, if she walks in, she will start complaining. making notes that I should pack this and that up, that I should clean the board while waiting for the stir fry to finish. Sometimes there is literally no downtime for certain dishes, especially with several to serve before it gets too late for the toddler. To be clear, I certainly clean some things as I go, especially when it concerns raw meat or things that need to go back into the fridge. I'll wipe down if there's any offensive spills, but for things like chopping boards, certain empty packages, or condiments, I will leave them on the benchtop until I am done, or when I'm washing up. Things that I feel don't pose risks or have any urgency to be put away, other than making the kitchen look tidy during cooking. Happy to be proven wrong. Anyway, one day for whatever reason, my wife got real snarky at me because I left the chopping board out next to the pans, saying it's not hard to clean as I cook. Whatever, fine. So for the next meal, I made sure to clean everything I touched as I started my meal prep. I had already made sure the little one had her dinner, so there's no harm in drawing this out. Need to open that can of pasta sauce? Better wash down the can opener and dry it before we start. Gotta wipe down the whole kitchen top too. Oops, dropped a garlic clove. I better give the whole kitchen floor a good scrub. Is that a bit of charred residue on the stove? Okay, better degrease the entire area. You get my drift. Wife has put the little one to sleep by now, so 3 hours later the kitchen is sparkling, literally. Pasta has not entered the water, and the sauce materials have not touched the pan. Wife asks where's dinner. I tell her I haven't started cooking because I still need to clean the fridge. There were some stains under the tomato tray. She went back to bed. I still cooked and packed her lunch. I've not been harassed since. OP added an edit down below. It says, edit, there's no expectation for my wife to clean. I've made it clear that I'm happy to do it, as I clean up messes I make. We split our duties, so she spends that time on other things that need attention around the house. Jumping down to the comment section on this one, there's one from a user called Ralph Magnum. It says, my wife and I both cook, and we have a stay out of the kitchen if one is cooking, unless you're called to help rule. If she's cooking, I don't need to go bother her. She does her own thing. If I am cooking, she doesn't need to come bother me. I do things my way. Sounds like you need to adopt that rule. I don't know, to me, that rule seems like it's taking things just a bit too far. OP literally just needs to sit down and have a talk with his wife and say, hey, does all this stuff get done? And when she says yes, then he can say, well, it doesn't matter what order it gets done in. You're getting your food, the kitchen's getting clean, bug off. That definitely wouldn't work in my kitchen because when wifey's cooking something in there, I love walking in, walking right up to whatever pot's on the stove, grabbing the spoon and going, poison test, and then making sure it tastes okay. This story comes to us from one of your favorites, Ancient Educator 76. That's not the right amount of Frosties. By all means, let me fix that for you. I'm training to be a manager at your friendly neighborhood Mendy's. I usually do drive-thru, but here I am being asked to do a refund at the lobby register because I know how. A southern, like if Alex Garnacelli played pickleball or something, lady ordered 4 baggy bags, her words, with an extra Frosty, all chocolate. Okay, cool. We made her all of her food, and last second she decides, you know what? I don't want those. They don't look chocolatey enough. Not at all. Okay, fine. We comply, and instead of making the lady give me the credit card to refund the full meal, then ring her up for the meal without the Frosties, about a 50-cent upcharge per, I simply ring up 4 medium Frosties as a direct refund. This amount has her getting back $12.99. She immediately complained and shouted, hey, asshat, that's not the right amount of Frosties. Enter the right amount of effing Frosties, and don't cheap out on me. This was roughly translated because it was a heated moment, but she mentioned something about me being cheap. Also, I've never been called an asshat before. I'm honored. I was about to explain that she was getting a refund that's worth half her meal, but the asshat didn't sit right with me and made the malicious compliance adjustment. You know what? You're right. You had 5 Frosties, the upcharges for the meals, and then the extra one, right? Okay, let me fix that. It took a long time to figure out how to make the refund happen, which required me to take her card multiple times and then show her that I refunded her for 1 full price Frosty at $2.13 and then 4 more Frosties at 50 cents each, so it's $4.13 back to her. Oh, that can't be right. I told her just how wrong she was, showing her receipts as she realized what a mistake she made, as her food just kept getting as cold as my Frosty flavored heart. Jumping down to the comment section on this one, there's one from a user called Gromit1991. It says, sounds like she was pulling that stunt on purpose to get a large discount, and it backfired spectacularly. OP responded to this one and said, yeah, I gotta admit, I normally don't refund so lazily to refund over 10 bucks in Frosties. But again, she looks like Alex Garnacelli with a southern accent. I was smitten as F until she said the word chocolatey. Then my admiration fell off like a continental shelf. Such a weird range of emotions. So basically what happened here was the customer made OP do the math, and when OP did the math, it came out in their favor and not the customer's favor. I love it when customers think they're right, but they're absolutely wrong. I just wish that when I was working retail back in the day, or even food service, that I had the opportunity to do something like this myself. I never stood up for myself, and I really should have. This story comes to us from ManBirdPlane69420. I can't use a shopping cart, but I can put some items on the checkout counter, as you wish. Some background. About a year or two ago, I did a lot of shopping at a grocery store for work. Sometimes I would need to grab items from the liquor store attached inside the grocery store. The liquor store operated as its own separate little store with its own checkout, but it was still owned by the grocery store, and you had to enter from inside the grocery store. When you enter the liquor store, there is a sign that you must leave your shopping cart outside. This normally makes sense as the liquor store is small, and having people in carts all around would cause quite the traffic jam. On to the day in question. On my list for this shopping trip, I had a full load of liquor to get for the bar at work and for a holiday party. I probably needed around 15 handles of assorted booze. As I walked into the liquor store for this shopping trip, there was no one else around except for the cashier. Knowing I had a large number of items to purchase, I asked if I could bring my empty cart in and park it next to the checkout spot so I could load it with all the liquor bottles I needed to purchase. I was met with a very nasty, "No, don't you see the sign?" I tried to explain the situation and how I needed many more bottles than I could possibly carry. Plus, there were no handheld baskets around for me to try and manage. The cashier wasn't having it and told me if I really couldn't carry everything at once, I could place some items on the checkout counter while I went to get more. This is where the malicious compliance comes in. I only needed about 15 bottles to cover the month's supply of booze, but I figured why not go ahead and get stocked up for the next month? I spent about 15 minutes running back and forth from the shelves to the counter, placing more and more items down, taking up the whole counter. As I was doing this, a few customers came in and I watched the cashier struggle to work around my items in order to scan and check out the other customers. The look on the cashier's face was glorious, as he had to work around a problem he created for himself. When I finally did check out, the cashier didn't have enough room on the checkout counter to scan and bag my items. So get this, the cashier then told me I could bring my cart in to put the bottles in to make room on the counter. I jokingly asked if he knew that carts were prohibited in the liquor store, but he didn't laugh at that one. After a few seconds of awkward silence, I went and got my cart anyways because it would have been a huge inconvenience to me to run back and forth from the counter to my cart. I genuinely understand the store's policy on this, but sometimes there needs to be exceptions to the rule. Down in the comment section, we have one from a user called LibraryMouse4321. It says, "You did tell him that you were purchasing more than you could handle." The next one down, Baroness Indecisive, says, "It's unfortunate that the clerk bottled up so much resentment. Maybe OP was the fifth to try it that day." The next comment down from Miss T Morning says, "Guess that's what happens when you follow the letter of the law and not the spirit. Hopefully the clerk distilled a valuable lesson from this interaction." I love how OP threw the comments of the cashier right back into their face. I'm just disappointed that they took it without saying anything. They could have laughed or something because, you know, life's too short to be so pissy all the time. I do want to say that I understand the cart policy though, because it's not so much being able to get around the liquor store and the other people in there. It's that if you have a couple people with carts in a very small space, you might actually hit some of the shelves and that could break a bunch of the product. So in this case, OP offered to leave it at the cash, and the cashier honestly should have said yes. We'll leave it at that.